Welcome back. You're now watching the lifestyle segment on the Weekend Show brought to you by Holocrunch. On the 26th of June, the world marked the World Drug Day with the theme People First, Stop Stigma and Discrimination, and Strengthen Prevention. Every year, we get reports about how there's an increasing number of people who now participate in illegal drugs. In most countries and places, certain drugs have now been criminalized. However, should these be criminalized or do these people need help? In the United States, for instance, a lot of people are locked up in prison as a result of drug usage. What about the impact which it has on their lives? Is it a medical condition or is it criminal? In Nigeria, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency is currently and constantly arresting and prosecuting people for possession and sale of illegal drugs, which is right and within their mandate. But how does this affect people? What about the stigma? We also saw in 2020 during the COVID pandemic, a lot of people resorted into drug use as a result of depression and all other factors. This and more we will be discussing in the lifestyle segment today. Joining us
We have Kenneth Onator, who is a consultant, House of Representatives Committee on Narcotic Drugs. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, it's a pleasure to be here. I don't take it for granted every time the media give us an opportunity to enlighten and shed more light on this topical issue. Thank you.
So tell us why you're here today then.
On this day, we're just here to change the narrative. Most of the years we have been sharing facts. Most of the years we have been looking for different strategy, but this year the UNODC brought a new strategy that because of the challenges in assessing treatment for people that have substance use disorder, the people that most people refer to as addicts that have substance use disorder, want to change the narrative so that they can easily assess treatment. Statistics show in Nigeria that for every 7 people, that one person has used drugs in the last 1 year. And for every 5 people using drugs, 1 has a substance use disorder. For every 4 people with substance use disorder, 1 is a woman. And statistics show that women go faster from casual drug usage to problematic drug usage because most times when women use drugs, they tend to use it with multiple partners, especially when they inject the drugs. And when it now comes to treatment, the statistics on treatment that was conducted in about 70-something treatment centers in Nigeria shows that for every 20 people that access treatment to substance use disorder, only 1 is a woman. So now, why is only 1 that's a woman? Because of stigma. Women face double stigma. They face stigma from their caregivers, stigma from the health workers, and even after they assess the treatment, when it comes back into reintegration back into the society, they also face this type of stigma. So leveraging on the fact that the media has the responsibility of informing the mindset of a generation of people, by using this opportunity to get closer to the media, to begin to give the right information so that people can understand that substance use disorder, which is a chronic relapsing brain disorder, characterized by a person going after a particular drug of choice, regardless of how it affects him, his environment, and his family. So we look at this as a brain disease, a chronic brain disease. Other chronic diseases include cancer. When we say chronic, it's deadly, but relapsing, it means that it can be completely treated and come back. So when we start to look at this as a disease and start to look at these people as people that need help, we begin to give them the opportunity to come out, to come and say that they need help. And we begin to look at treatment options. We begin to look at substance use disorder as a public health challenge, not a criminal justice problem.
So I see you're the consultant, House of Reps Committee on Narcotic Drugs. Could you share what that committee is doing to reduce these figures you've just given us?
The committee has oversight function on the NDLA, and you can see the prolific nature of all the work that the NDLA has been doing in terms of improving their allowances, in terms of supporting the amendment of that new bill, in terms of giving them a bigger budget. They never had barracks until last year when there was a provision for barracks. Officers that would go to do raids and all these things will still be living in civilian communities. But now those provisions have made the officers more comfortable and have made them more dedicated, even going beyond the line of duty.
But it's interesting that when we talk about illicit drug use and illegal drug use, there's always this focus on law enforcement and, like we've both said, the criminalizing of these processes. But I do understand that even medically, some people have a higher addictive personality than
Yes.
some other people,
Yes.
which is why someone could take it and get crazy and some other people may be okay and some may get addicted. However, this is a medical issue. And in Nigeria, how are we striving to ensure that this is a public and medical health issue which we need to enlighten people on and also provide care for them as opposed to just catch, arrest, deal with them?
That's first. Okay. I'm glad you brought up this question. Well, if we look at the intervention value chain, I also am opportunity to have the co-founder of an NGO called the Unity International Foundation. So there are two sides of this. We have the drug demand reduction and we have the supply reduction. So the supply reduction involves the law enforcement agencies, involves the NDLA, the police, civil, all those other agencies that can arrest and can prosecute. Now, when we talk about drug demand reduction, we have a long chain of stakeholders. We have those in prevention, going to secondary schools, going to primary schools, talking to people on dangers of drug abuse and all those things. We have those in sensitization. Those in sensitization can do community outreach, talk to clergies, do all those. We have those in advocacy. We can work with policymakers to arrange programs to kind of inform their mindset on bills and policies that they create. We have those in advocacy still talking to Ministry of Health. On Monday, we were with Ministry of Health. When our chairman, when the new chairman of our committee is put up, we'll be working with him too. Then we have those in harm reduction. These are people that understand that, okay, this is a challenge and these guys need help. So they're going to look at ways they can stop them from giving much harm to themselves. They have needle programs. There's a Ministry of Health is introducing substitution programs for people that have drug use challenge. Then we have those in rehabilitation, those that actually work on rehabilitating these individuals. And I believe that His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu has already promised to work on topics that affect the youths. He has gone forward with the students' loan. Also, looking at, since he's interested in working with the youth, I believe that this issue of drug abuse, which is one issue that affects the youth the most, is going to be captured. The appointment of Haji Bala Usman for policy, appointment of Madam Salma Anas Kolo for health as SA in health. Actually, Madam Salma actually worked in Ministry of Health, and she's actually in the department in drug demand in the department tasked with drug usage. So I believe that it's a strategic appointment, and I'm looking forward to the news and what else we're going to hear from them.
Yeah, Nigeria is largely based on community. So how can communities and individuals, help in achieving a drug-free society? Because we can't just leave it all to the government. We also have parts to play. So how do we do that?
First of all, they need to understand what this drug use challenge is and understand why people get into drugs. There are so many factors that could make somebody more susceptible to becoming addicted. Let's look at one that people don't really know. When I took in the Harvard Medical School and took a course, our professors gave us a theory called neurology of addiction. In that theory, our professors began to explain to us that since drug use disorder is a chronic relapsing brain disorder, so when the person indulges in such, it affects a part of the person's brain, damaging that part of the person's brain. So they brought CAT scans, x-rays of people's brain and showed it to us, the different damages before they went into treatment. So now, in that theory, they told us that when a person uses this drug and it damages that part, it can be transferred to the next generation in such a manner that the son or the daughter would come and use that particular drug of choice, and the son would have a different feeling from someone who nobody in the family ever used that type of drug, and that person is genetically more susceptible to becoming addicted to that particular type of drug. And they gave us example of alcoholics in their family, someone that their grandfather was an alcoholic, the father was an alcoholic, and the son just happens to taste the alcohol. It gives him a different feeling from someone who nobody in that family ever took alcohol. They give us examples of chain smokers. The grandfather was a chain smoker, father chain smoker. So when you now begin to look at this thing that someone was already genetically susceptible to becoming addicted, you can't really now tell that person is a criminal You can't really just say that you are bad. You can't say it's a moral issue. Other things that can affect somebody's drug usage can be the environment where he grows up. Someone grows up in an environment where cigarettes is being kept in front of the table every morning. You can't ever tell him that cigarettes are bad. Someone grows up in an environment where every time he comes out, he sees somebody smoking Indian hemp or something, and you come to the school and tell the person that if you smoke Indian hemp, you go mad. He begins to see the disparity in the information that you're feeding him. So we have to begin to understand this issue, that it's not criminal justice, but it's a public health challenge. And when we understand it, we can begin to help. And that help that we give, people can be more comfortable to say, I have this challenge. And we can begin to get help for them in terms of rehabilitation, in terms of counseling, in terms of outpatient programs. Different programs are already put in place. The UNODC, during the pandemic, they launched a drug help net. And if you search online drug help net, you see a list of different counseling service rehabilitation centers that are online that you can just access and get help. And there are other, even in Abuja here, there are lots of centers that individuals can reach out to. The facilities are available. People just need to be comfortable to come out. There was a study that showed that it involved 3 people. It showed of substance users. It showed that some people felt that they have a substance abuse issue and they don't care, they don't want to do anything. Some people felt like they have a substance use issue, but they didn't know where to get help. Some people felt like they have a substance use issue, but because of judgment, they're not going to say anything. So I believe that the stigma is the main barrier to us changing this rhetoric. And we must understand that we have been given a statistic target that between now and 2030, that there's going to be a 26 to 40% rise in drug use in Africa because of our youth population. So this is the right time to have these talks. I pray, hope that the session we have will be played to change the perspective of people.
Before we let you go, and it's good that you spoke about it, because in one of the documents you gave us, it shows that over 246 million people worldwide, and this was in 2014, have been involved in some form of drug use or the other. And so obviously I'm guessing that number has gone to at least 500 million and more. You now even have cases where some of what we call illegal drugs are now being decriminalized in other parts of the world. However, you've repeatedly said the young people, increasing young users, but the truth is, I think it cuts across all the generation,
yes,
young and old. But now that we've spoken about the mental and the medical and the public health concerns about it, I would like you to talk about the law enforcement when it comes to the supply chain. Because in most cases, it's not the young people who are also supplying it. You have top members of society and people who have made a living out of it and are involved in the supply. In the 80s, at some point when it was a pandemic in Nigeria, it was criminalized that there was a death sentence for drug traffickers, and now they have lighter sentences. Do you think our legislation needs to be strengthened with the new NDLA Act on enforcement against the suppliers, or what do you think can be done to cut down the supply chain, which leads to more addiction and usage?
I believe that the sentence right now, it's actually good, 25 years. But I would just hope and believe that looking at this as a public health challenge, that there could be more alternatives to incarceration. Because most times when you actually, let's look at a bust. When they actually bust a place and they see it's hard to differentiate between the dealer and the drug users. And sometimes, because of some porous natures of things, a dealer might be able to whisk himself out and leave the drug user in the net. And even in the rural areas, since we're talking about the criminal justice part, in the rural areas, it's only high courts that actually have the jurisdiction to treat those cases. So sometimes when they catch people in those rural areas, the magistrate court can't handle them. So they'll have to get a date, the high court, leaving the user in the police station more than often, like for a very long time. And going back to that, when they now actually take this person before a judge, imagine a judge that his son was being influenced by somebody to do drugs, and he just comes out that morning and sees somebody that's saying they caught this person with drugs, and he has the prerogative or the liberty to give between the sentence of 25 years. how would you judge that case? So I think we need to look at alternatives to incarceration for drug users. Can there be community service? Can there be something else? For the dealers, the people that profit from destroying lives, I believe that we should even think of another stiffer punishment for them. But looking at how prolific the NDLA has been, if you listen to some of their cases, you see that they have prosecuted some of the largest, in this last 4 years, they have prosecuted more cases than has ever been done. So I believe in terms of the criminal justice part, for the supply reduction, NDLA is already prolific in that. But in terms of the handling the users, we have to begin to look at alternatives to incarceration. I was at a briefing, a World Press Conference at the Ministry of Health, and one of the resource persons said that she was looking for her vulcanizer in Lagos, and she didn't see him, and she came out one day and she finally saw him. He said, that he was arrested for drugs, that he went to prison for a while, where he came back now that he has learned a lot of things. And they're like, what did you learn? He said he has learned how to do kidnapping, he has learned how to do internet fraud, he has learned how to this thing, and she was like, no, are you serious? We're like, they just caught me with small weed, but they sent me to prison, that he has learned a lot of things. It's going to start. So we can't be sending people that have public health challenges to to go and stay with criminals and get hardened. We need to begin to look at this alternative to incarceration.
I think that's a great place to leave it. Where can people find you, your organization, and people who need help? What do they need to do? How can they reach out?
You can reach out to us. Our number is 0703 74 74 611. 0703 74 74 611. You can search my name, Kenneth Aneto. I'm a public figure. You can always reach out. I get a lot of calls. We do referral services for treatment for a lot of people. We do consultancy for a lot of members, and we're always available. My phone is always on. Always pick your call.
And the Federal Ministry of Health?
And the Federal Ministry of Health. The NDLA also has a helpline. If you just Google NDLA, NDLEA.
Without them being
helpline,
arrested by calling the helpline.
No, you won't be
so
arrested.
Clarify that
you
just so people would know.
You're arrested. Well, you can reach out to us. We won't arrest you.
Thank you so much for the
It's
work
a
you're
pleasure
doing. And just like we have said, we need to ensure that there's less stigma and shame, and to ensure that people choose life. We do understand that it is quite tough out there. A lot is going on. You find a lot of young people under pressure to succeed. You have social media and its impact, where everybody is showing their best stories, and then you also have a lot of influence, which you also get. However, this is a problem which is affecting people globally, and in Nigeria, both the young and the old are affected. The first step is to ensure that this is a health challenge which should be treated, and rehabilitation and also prevention. We will continue to do our best to amplify such messages, and we'll also share the details of his organization on social media. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll take a quick break, and when we're back, more for you on The Weekend Show. Don't go away.